At the commencement of the narrative, we observe an American football game. In the VIP seating area, a gentleman named Nicky was lounging comfortably alongside his girlfriend Jess. The game was in progress, yet Nicky's attention was more captivated by the spectators than the actual match. He noticed an attractive young woman rising from her seat and instantly conceived a playful notion. He proposed a modest wager with Jess, speculating on how many individuals would turn their heads to glance at the woman. A gentleman present, Livian, expressed his interest in participating as well. Everyone was eager to participate, and Nicky consented. They humorously placed a $10 wager and began tallying. When the young woman exited the stands, the ultimate count revealed that 7 individuals turned to observe her. Jess had estimated the closest number, thus she emerged victorious in the bet. Nicky handed over the money without any reluctance and proposed initiating the subsequent round. This time, the wager was on who would commit the forthcoming foul. Jess excused herself, mentioning she lacked familiarity with the game, but Nicky, he eagerly joined in and placed a $1,000 wager. As soon as the whistle was blown, the referee signaled a foul, and the team Nicky had placed his bet on was indeed correct. He won the wager and pocketed the money. Even after losing the previous wager, he became even more exhilarated. He exclaimed, "This time, let's wager $5,000. The question this time was whether they would pass the ball or run with it. Nicky was somewhat hesitant to place the $5,000 wager, but eventually he agreed. The guess was that they would run, and Nicky said they would pass, but as soon as the whistle blew, the player actually ran with the ball. Because of this, Nicky lost $5,000. Nicky then decided it was no big deal. After losing $5,000, he suggested they stop and go for a coffee, but Leo insisted. He said, "You're sitting in the VIP lounge, you have money, what's $5,000 to you? Play one more round, this time for $10,000, and eventually Nicky agreed. Now the question was whether this player, will Sheila successfully complete the pass or not? Nicky predicted that yes, the pass would be made, but the other team intercepted it midway. Now Nicky had lost $15,000. As he withdrew the money, he was a bit upset. He thought for a moment and said, "Let's bet $50,000 this time." Just was surprised to hear this, but Nicky seemed angry. Luck was not on his side at this moment. He lost the next bet again, which cost him another $50,000. Now, Jaish advised him to stop immediately, but Nicky, his frustration and pride got the better of him. Without much thought, he placed the subsequent bet. Someone taunted him, questioning if he even possessed that much money. Without uttering many words, Nicky placed an entire bundle of cash on the table. This made everyone quite excited. Nicky then wagered that the upcoming pass would be intercepted and not completed. However, this time, the pass was indeed successful. Nicky had now lost millions of dollars. He was now at a loss as to how to extricate himself from this predicament. Even Jest was quite astonished by his actions, but at this point, the game had escalated to an extremely intense level. Nicky declared, "I have $1 million remaining, so let's wager it all and determine the victor. This time the decision will be made using cards." He had been winning consistently, so he was becoming increasingly ecstatic with joy. He began to perceive Nicky as if she were an ATM machine. Luvian drew his card, which needed to be greater than a 5. The odds of winning were considerably high. He picked it up and flipped it over with a great deal of confidence, but it unfortunately turned out to be a 3. Observing this, Jess immediately fell off her chair in surprise. When Nicky initiated the game, she only planned to wager $4,000, but by this point she had lost over $1 million. That is approximately $9,000. Following this humiliating defeat, she had nothing left to express, so she silently took Jess's hand and began to guide her outside. Her heart was extremely heavy, but lion still. He started coming. He said, "This is what happens when you play with a master, son." Nicky paused and placed another bet, this time for $2 million, which was a bit new. Nicky issued a challenge and Kian could choose any random player with binoculars. If Nicky guessed the jersey number correctly, the win would be his. Leon was a bit confused by this. He said, "This is something that messes with your mind." It seemed to him as if Nicky was shooting himself in the foot. He was a bit suspicious that maybe Nicky was cheating. To dispel his uncertainty, Nicky confidently stated, "All right, I shall refrain from guessing this time. Jas will do it instead." Jas glared at Nicky with frustration, unable to comprehend the situation. What are the odds that among such a multitude of individuals, the jersey number I choose will be the correct one? Expressing this, she began to walk away, but a security guard intervened, resulting in a minor confrontation which she managed to de-escalate. Nicky advised her, "Simply observe the ground and mention the number that intuitively feels right to you." Liu Yan then She picked up the binoculars and selected a player, then meticulously scanned the entire field. Everywhere she directed her gaze, she observed only jersey numbers. How could she possibly guess? Then her eyes landed on a familiar face and she recalled Nikki's advice to select the number that intuitively felt right. Their friend Farhad was wearing a jersey with the number 55. Jess understood that this was all part of Nikki's elaborate plan. She confidently stated number 55 and it turned out to be the correct answer. Leo Yan was utterly astonished by her response. Jess also contemplated for a few moments about how Nikki had known beforehand that Leo would choose that particular number, but at this point it was irrelevant. They had won the wager, earned a profit of $1 million and regained all the money they had previously lost. Carrying 2 bags full of cash, they exited the stadium. In the car, Nikki told Jess that it was all part of their plan, and they had been tracking him for quite some time. In fact, he was involved in gambling within the society. Bois was famous for his bad habit of gambling. He would jump at any bet placed in front of him. Nikki's team had crafted this entire plan. As soon as Leoyan stepped out of his hotel room, the number 55 was implanted in his subconscious mind. The security guard's label pin also had 55 written on it. On the way to the stadium, the signboards also had the same number, and they not only showed him this number but also made him hear it. While coming to watch the match, they played a song in Leoyan's car that repeatedly hinted at the number. He got a hint of the childhood number. In that song, the sound like 55 played 124 times, drawing his mind to that number repeatedly. Along with that, he saw a photo of Farah, creating a visual memory. When looking through the binoculars, his mind naturally went to 55, and Jaish immediately said 55 upon seeing Farhad. Jaish wasn't told anything beforehand, so that during the whole game, his expressions would stay completely genuine, ensuring no one would suspect them. His expressions were so authentic that nobody suspected him. Upon hearing all of this, Jaish was thoroughly impressed with Nikki. The narrative then shifts back a few days. Just a few days prior, Nikki found himself in a room on a bed with a man aiming a gun at his head. Jazz was seated beside him, someone he had encountered just a few days earlier. It was evident that someone had ensnared Nikki, yet there was no trace of fear on his face. He straightforwardly stated that he didn't possess a single penny. Burn it if you want. The man with the gun understood his reactions and immediately recognized him. This man is a player, a bigger con artist than us, and his guess was absolutely correct. Nick is an excellent con artist who commits small thefts very skillfully. As soon as he was trapped and brought into this room, he saw a natural talent in Jess. Jess didn't understand anything at that moment. Anyway, when the man with the gun left, Nick told Jess that you have a gift, and if you hone your ability to con people, if you hone your skills from a young age, you can live comfortably for the rest of your life. But it's said that this is our family business. My father, his father, they were all con artists. It's a hereditary skill. Every trick was second nature to him, and without wasting any time, he took out some money and said, "I want to learn from you." Nikki didn't see the need to waste time either. While leaving, Nikki stealthily stole a ring, and she didn't even notice. By the time she realized what had happened, her watch was also gone. And as soon as she put the watch in her handbag, Nikki had already taken her wallet. After all these antics, Nikki said that all you need in this job is sleight of hand, typing, and a bit of style. That day, Nikki said nothing more than goodbye to her. Several months later, Jaish discovered her in the bustling city of New Orleans, where Nikki had begun assembling a new team. Their encounter was fundamentally a trial. He desired to determine if she was truly deserving of becoming part of their team. Upon Jas's agreement, Nikki dispatched her to the fair, accompanied by a member of the team. Sent off. Today was Jas's first practical assignment. She held a map in her hand and started asking people for directions. Meanwhile, her partner quietly stole a tourist's camera lens. Then another partner deliberately bumped into a man and Jas took his wallet. Jas was starting to gain some confidence in her style of stealing. She used chopsticks to take a wallet from another woman's bag, and everything was so smooth that no one suspected a thing. Nikki was watching all this from the top of a building. The team was instructed to leave her alone, as it was now her opportunity to soar, and she commenced pilfering costly items one after another. With each successful theft, Nikki's admiration for her increased. Now Nikki assigned her to another significant task. This time, it involved a technological fraud, where with the assistance of specialized lenses, they could observe others' cards and effortlessly outmaneuver their adversaries. There was also a method for purloining credit cards. The card would be discreetly stolen and surreptitiously sent to a teammate. The apparatus duplicates the information and subsequently the card is returned to the individual's pocket. By the moment anyone realizes, the whole account is completely drained. Another deception involved a counterfeit ATM machine. Whenever an individual withdrew cash from the ATM, the apparatus would automatically record their PIN and then someone would discreetly remove the machine and acquire all the information. All the credit cards were systematically categorized and utilized to acquire luxury goods, and ultimately their data was sold on the black market. One day, she saw a beautiful necklace and put it on. But Nikki told her to take it off immediately. She explained firmly that everything had to be sold. Nothing should be personal. It was the first time Jess was witnessing such a large-scale scam. Standing amidst the mountain of stolen goods felt entirely different. The next day, Chase and Farhad were wandering in a wealthy neighborhood. Their job was to act. Farhad pretended to faint and just started shouting for help. "Please, someone help us, please!" was a kind of distraction that allowed the rest of the team to steal valuables from the wealthy nearby. Then the entire team hid in an ambulance and escaped. Everything was so well planned that no one understood what had happened. That night, they all celebrated together. Nikki praised everyone because they had made $1.2 million in just 1 week. The next day, all the team members were going to separate. They were on the verge of separating. All the important documents had been completely destroyed and everyone was reassured that their money would be deposited into their bank accounts within a few days. However, the older members were aware that Nikki still had one final mission remaining. They handed her $1.2 million in cash and cautioned Jaish not to waste it on gambling. The following morning, Nikki took Jaish. In the exclusive VIP lounge of the stadium, she orchestrated an entire performance in front of Jas and illustrated how we could generate millions of dollars in merely a few minutes. Sure, by then she was starting to fall for Nikki. She felt like Nikki's girlfriend, which is why he showed her everything. It was apparent, but from the start, Nikki had involved her in the group merely to mislead her. When everything concluded, Nikki handed her $80,000 in cash and ultimately bid her farewell. As she gazed at him, tears welled up in her eyes and her heart was shattered. On one hand, she had genuinely fallen in love with Nikki, and on the other hand, she felt that $80,000 was insufficient because Nikki had just earned $1 million. However, in Nikki's world, there was no space for emotions, only revelry. Now, had seen the true colors. Approximately 3 years subsequently, we observe a race car making its way into a service station, and shortly thereafter we notice Nikki present as well. There was evident exhaustion in his eyes, and it was apparent from his expression that he was depleting his financial resources. During the lunch hour, he engaged in a meeting with Garia, the proprietor of his racing car team. Garia's research team had devised a novel algorithm named Exath, yet they aspired to enhance it to elevate their prospects of victory. For this purpose, they enlisted Nikki's expertise. It was quite simple. Nikki would pretend to be their chief engineer. Then they would make it look like there was a fight between him and Garia so that the other team would hear and fall into the trap. After that, Nikki would sell a fake version of the EXR to the rival team, while Garia's team would use the real system, ensuring their victory. According to Neil, Nikki was supposed to get 1 million euros for this job, and he would also earn from selling the fake system. Nikki considered this job a joke, such a simple scam he could do in his sleep. The butler employed by Garia harbored absolutely no trust whatsoever in him. He directly threatened Nikki, stating that if anything went awry, he would shoot him directly in the chest. Nikki donned a tuxedo and proceeded to attend a party in the evening. Their strategy was to stage a confrontation amidst the crowd. However, their plan unraveled as soon as Jas made her entrance. Descending the staircase in a red dress, she went directly to embrace Garia. Witnessing this, Nikki's mind went completely blank. He hadn't communicated with Jas in 3 years. He had not written to her, and now she was with another person, and that too with the individual who had employed Nikki. This individual calmly approached Nikki and stated that he was no longer a con artist, and that whatever transpired 3 years ago was irrelevant now. He also mentioned that Garia was unaware of the previous relationship between Nikki and him, and it would be preferable if it remained that way. Hearing all this made Nikki's blood boil with anger. He picked up a glass of vodka and emptied it in one swift motion. Initially, he needed to pretend to engage in a fight. Now, she was furious with Garia and had a big fight in front of everyone. This drama was appreciated by the rival racing team. Soon, security escorted her out, but she had the driver's team business card in hand. The next morning, Nikki met the McLaren team owner. She spoke directly, saying it would cost 3 million euros. "I want to sell the EXR system," she said. The owner didn't lack money, so why negotiate? There was absolutely no necessity for emotions. They promptly tested the track, and the owner's expression brightened upon witnessing the results. Nikki confidently assured that the entire software package would be delivered within 48 hours. Meanwhile, Farhad, whom Nikki had dispatched, encountered Jess on the street and explained to her that it was essential for Nikki to depart 3 years ago. They had no alternative. He mentioned that Nikki still has deep feelings for Jess. He presented it to Jess, and inside was the very same necklace that Jess had always admired. There was no guarantee as to whether it was genuine or counterfeit, but that was inconsequential. Observing the necklace softened Jess's heart. She mentioned she couldn't place her trust in Nikki, yet her eyes told a different story. She still harbored feelings for him. Well, eventually, the day of the significant deal arrived, and Nikki confidently handed over the complete software package to the owner of the McLaren team. In return, a hefty man handed him a substantial sum of 3 million euros. However, Nikki's nature was such that he never worked without taking calculated risks. He secretly sold a duplicate copy of that software to every racing team. With each handshake, he pocketed millions in euros. Until the race officially started, no one realized that everyone had the identical system. That night, instead of running away, Nikki messaged Jess. If she came in time, they could escape together. Nikki waited, but no one came. At the last moment, as he was about to give up and leave, Jess showed up. However, it wasn't time to escape yet, because at that very moment, the burly man who had given him 3 million euros on behalf of the McLaren team appeared in front of Nikki. In fact, he was Garia's man. He had now discovered the truth that Nikki had sold the real software, not a fake one. He wasn't interested in Garia's 1 million. He was not interested in it whatsoever. At this point, he donned his complete gear and intentionally collided with Nikki's vehicle. Following the serious accident, Nikki and Jess were apprehended, and all the money was displayed before Garia. Garia was extremely furious with Nikki's deeds. He had invested a substantial 40 million euros in developing this program, and now it was entirely squandered. The most significant problem was that Garia couldn't comprehend how Nikki had managed to steal the authentic software. When Nikki refused to disclose anything, Garia, he pinched Jess's nose, causing her breathing to halt, and witnessing this, Nikki was utterly devastated. He confessed everything, explaining that he had reignited Jess's past feelings for him and had gifted her a necklace with a specialized chip embedded inside. As soon as Garia accessed the software, Nikki utilized the necklace to extract his password and data. Upon hearing this, Jess's heart shattered. Tears cascaded from her eyes, and Garia and his men laughed heartily. They found the story amusing but didn't trust Nikki's statements. Garia. He mentioned that it was as if he didn't have a girlfriend. I know she was with me for the money. On the other hand, Jess also admitted that she only wanted to steal his expensive watch collection. Nikki was surprised that Jess had done this to spite him. They pretended to be genuinely in love with Garia. Now, both of them were apprehended. Garia didn't take much time to act. She inquired of Butcher about how Nikki managed to steal the software. As soon as Nikki began to speak, Butcher fired a shot. The bullet went directly into Nikki's chest. Garia's face turned as pale as a ghost. She panicked and told Butcher that money can always be earned back, but if I get entangled in a murder, my life is completely over. She immediately got rid of Butcher and fled from the warehouse. Jess was crying profusely, but Butcher reassured her, saying there's no need to be afraid. There is absolutely no need to worry. In fact, Nikki was actually one of our own, and to be completely honest, I am his biological father. He intentionally aimed the bullet to the side of the heart. He carefully sealed the wound with medical tape, extracted the blood using a needle, and stabilized the air pressure in his chest cavity. Suddenly, Nikki opened his eyes once more. He was still very much alive. This act was somewhat crazy, but it was effective. A substantial pile of money was left behind them, and the three of them quickly got out of there. Nikki was indeed an orphan, and it was this butler who had raised him. It was indeed the butler who had meticulously taught Nikki all of these thieving skills. The cardinal rule was to never become emotionally involved, yet now Nikki appeared to be genuinely falling in love. The butler abandoned both of them by the roadside and took all the money with him. Nikki was left with absolutely nothing, but on the way to the hospital, Nikki noticed in the car that Garia's 200,000 euros watch was on his wrist. They exchanged glances and smiled. With their cunning and sleight of hand, they wouldn't go hungry anywhere in the world this year.